Okay, good. Do people actually describe having sexual intercourse with these aliens?
There's a short answer and a long answer to that. The short answer is no. With those aliens, what you have is beings that do not have visible genitalia. There's no way that we can see how they reproduce. For the gray aliens, who are very thin and who, you can see virtually everything that comes, that is part of their gross physiology. At that point, you're not looking at normal reproductive organs. I'm sorry, you're not looking at reproductive organs at all. Therefore, it is not possible for aliens or insect-like beings to have sexual relations with a human. Now, the question is then, why do people say that every once in a while? And the answer is, this is a reproductively oriented phenomenon and has been since the beginning, since the very first accounts that ever came forward, the Antonio Villas-Boas count in Brazil in 1957 and the Barney and Betty Hill account in New Hampshire, United States, 1961. They've always shown an interest in reproduction. What I found, and what I wrote about in my first book on the subject, Secret Life, was the fact that these beings can control people neurologically from a distance. That distance might be touching foreheads or a greater distance, 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever it is. What they do when they do what I call a neurological engagement procedure, a staring procedure, where they'll stare at a person's eyes from a distance of a few inches or even touching foreheads, as I said, they can then create emotional states in the person's mind. How they do this, I do not know, because there is a gap between eyes, but we do know that they're hooking into the optic nerve of a person's, which is the only nerve that can be seen from the outside, and using it, I guess, as a conduit to innervate any other neurons that they want, any neurological site within the brain. What women report consistently, and have reported since I began to look into this subject in 1986, is a stimulation of sexual feelings. Now, you cannot have a stimulation of sexual feelings that comes naturally and normally when a monster from outer space is looking into your eye. That is not going to happen. However, it's done artificially. When the person then has a peak level of sexual response, they then go forward, go down and take eggs that are released from the ovum as a result of that procedure, we surmise. That sexual response and staring at that alien is then confabulated by some people into saying, I've had sex with an alien, and they actually haven't. Having said that, there are a series of human-like hybrids that we deal with. This came out early on. In other words, the children, the babies who look sort of more human than alien, some of them have most of the attributes of humans. They then can, in fact, have sexual relations with abductees because they are essentially human and they have a human sexual response and drive. It also has another function. Instead of taking an egg out and sperm out of a woman, out of a man and a woman, and then putting them together and causing some sort of a change in the zygotes, in the fertilized egg, and then reimplanting. By having a hybrid have intercourse with a woman, that part is skipped. And the hybrid's alteration, so to speak, is implanted into the woman if the egg is fertilized. So it skips a certain part. In other words, it releases sexual tension. It also has a reproductive function that helps the aliens. So, sex with aliens, gray aliens, small, large, tall, insect-like aliens, reptilian aliens. I have never seen that. There are reasons to believe that that has never happened.
What about the people that do claim that they do have sex regularly with these aliens? There's an MP in the UK. He believes his father, I think he believes his father the child with one of these aliens, and his wife's threatened to divorce him. Have you seen that one? He's a famous MP.
I have not seen that. I will look that up on the internet immediately. This is how that happens. They take I guess I would say inside football type stuff. They take a man, when aliens abduct men, they take sperm from them. There's lots of ways of doing it. Most common way is machines. There are several different kinds of machines that are used to do it. The sperm is just withdrawn, period. Sometimes they'll use other abductees to do it. So what they'll do is they'll take a man who is totally under their control, who is like the women, slack-jawed, zombie-looking, like people say they'll see a man or a woman walking down a hallway towards them as they walk through the hallway themselves, and they're walking in the opposite direction, and they'll say to me, "There's this guy there, he's a human, he looks like a zombie." And we know that the person who is, let's just say the guy is walking, will see the woman and say to himself, "Wow, there's this woman there, she looks like a zombie." In other words, they're slack-jawed, glassy-eyed, and they're walking through. So they take this guy, they then can institute sexual response in him through neural engagement. They put him on top of a woman, he does his thing, and then, to put it bluntly, he ejaculates into a receptacle. They use that as a sperm gathering device. They use women as sperm gathering devices. They do this virtually every time a man says he had sexual intercourse with a woman and a woman says she had sexual intercourse with a man. And I will ask them pointed questions about what happens at peak sexual response, and invariably the man or the woman will say, "They pull me off and I ejaculate into a receptacle." In other words, it's a sperm collection device. So that guy who's saying that is speaking a half-truth. He thinks that he's speaking in a complete event, but he has skipped part of collecting the sperm. That's the part he skipped. That's because he has not had competent investigation. He doesn't really know what happened to him. This leads to the problem of hypnosis. Number one, memory is flawed. It is especially flawed in the abduction phenomenon when people are not supposed to remember at all. And most of them don't. And when they do remember, they remember bits and pieces of abduction events, and sometimes those bits and pieces are horribly distorted, and they think that X, Y, and Z happened to them, and actually was completely different than what they thought. And they skip over certain parts, and they can fabulate like crazy. They get their own thoughts involved with it, and they think that their own thoughts were what actually happened to them. And it's up to the competent researcher to figure out that that is confabulation, to understand it, to recognize it immediately, and deal with it as confabulation. And it usually comes in well-known procedures that the person is distorting and doesn't really realize. You know what I mean? You have to understand what the abduction phenomenon is and how it works first before you can understand how much they're veering from it. And this is an extraordinarily routinized business here. They do things in a certain routine, and they very rarely vary from it. So when they do vary from it, you have to put that information on the back burner. You wait for verification from other people who are unaware of that testimony, and then it becomes evidence. And the more verification you have, the stronger it is, obviously. Now, we have hundreds of accounts of sperm taking. This we've known from Barney Hill. They took sperm from Barney Hill in 1961. And to our great happiness, Barney was so embarrassed by this event happening to him that when a book was written about their experiences that was published in 1966, Interrupted Journey, he had the author, John Fuller, take that part out of the book. And we thank him, although he died in 1969, because he did not display it to the public so that everybody could say, well, men say they had sperm taken from him because that's what they read in the Barney and Betty Hill book. But in fact, it wasn't there, and it did happen. And so you can't say that the genesis of it was in popular culture or was in a book that people read. You see what I mean? But so you have to tell the MP in some way that he actually got it wrong. His marriage should not be in danger. His wife should understand, etc., etc., etc. So next time you talk with him, tell him that.
It sounds like to me, Dr. Jacobs, that this method of where these people believe they're having intercourse is just another way of the aliens getting people's sperm. It
is mechanical. You're exactly right. It's just a way of getting sperm. It has nothing to do with sex.
Yeah.
These beings, the gray aliens, the insect-like ones, they don't. There's no way that they understand what sexual relations are. They understand how reproduction occurs within the human body, but they themselves are not sexual beings as far as we can tell.
So correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, there's nothing sexual with the aliens involved in it. Nothing at all.
No. From what we can tell, that does not exist within their makeup.
Excellent. That's what I thought. Right. Next one. We know there are animals which are found mutilated and dead. Do you know of any cases of humans being mutilated?
I do not know of any cases of humans being mutilated, and I know there are a few cases here, there, and everywhere. And I'm not sure exactly what happened to those people. I know that with all the people who abduction researchers have worked with, I don't think there are any cases of abductees being mutilated. Now, you can't prove a negative.